All right. Now, finally, we have this thing. Just to give a quick overview, make sure I'm on the right skill level, let's get right to the goddamn point. We're going to turn on some cheats, we're going to fly up, and we're going to talk about these... No target. That's how you spell it. This bullshit right here. Alright. Here's what we're talking about. These are the most hideous textures I've ever laid eyes on. I will grant you that. I don't like this one either. This, plus that, and the blue. Eh. My goal was, I wanted something to get away from the standard E3M5 copper and drippy wet, which I know was part of the thing, but as was explained to us, some maps took the wind tunnels theme and ran with it, and I figured, why the hell not? Let's try something else. So, I went looking for textures that I hadn't seen before, as we discover this was not used in Quake for a reason. This, I don't think, shows up too much, and this is used for mostly constructed stone walls, where I've used it for rock, because I thought it kind of looked better as rock, and I think now, in retrospect, I was wrong. But... let me just check my notes here. I've taken extensive, copious notes on everything in my map here. When I tested this the first time with the Skylight 2 lighting, which is just like the automatic dome, Eric W's Tier Utils gives you this kind of fake global illumination looking thing, nice soft shadows, and it just kind of, everywhere there's a sky, it puts your hemisphere of lights. So I did that, but without a regular skylight, so it's just soft. And when I looked at this the first time, I said, wow, that looks like a custom Quake map from 1998. And I thought, instead of going id map or modern Quake map that sort of looks kind of retro, almost sort of a little bit, I figured why not go for community-made monstrosity from that same kind of era. That seemed like fun. Now, the takeaway from all of this is to carefully document one's motivations when making a decision like that, because as soon as I did all of that, I basically forgot that I was working with this, and I just built everything with these textures as best I could. And seeing that kind of feedback, or people's so violently negative reaction to these colors and to this texture, hurts a lot, even though I was doing it on purpose. I mean, I meant to do this, but it still sucks, man. I'm still getting over it. But anyway, that is the reason I did this, and now I'm just noticing these fuckers are not lined up. I didn't treat as one, god damn it. I didn't align that, so it's even worse. Fantastic. That's another thing about this texture. It has a tendency, just the way it's aligned, the way the blocks are all lined up. If this thing is toward the edge here, you get the ugliest little seam, and I had to spend a little time aligning right and left and screwing around with a lot of surfaces, which should have been a hint. But, well, what's done is done. You wanted retro, you got fucking retro. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, my overall design goals for this thing. I spent about 2 days doodling around in Jackhammer, or Jack, whatever it's called, not really doing anything in particular. And as time went on, I realized I had less and less time to design a larger map. Building the geometry is not terribly difficult. The rocks are, you know, more complicated, but even that doesn't take too long. You just kind of move some things around, especially with Jack's new triangulate option, which is fantastic. So doing it wasn't too bad, but deciding what to do in the first place, of where do they go? What buttons do they push? Where do they grab the key? How do they hit the enemies? Which way does it go? Crisscrossing back and forth. How do I get them from here to over there and back and up and down? And it just took forever. It always takes forever. I'm no good at that. So, by the time I had an epiphany in the bathroom, where all my best ideas come to me, I realized I didn't have time to build anything complicated, so I would take the what do you call them, wind tunnels, and instead of having a bunch of them interconnecting areas, I would just have one. And the focus would be to, throughout the map, you would have bits and pieces of it, and maybe they'd be locked off with some bars, or you'd press buttons to open it up, or to turn them on to activate the thing, or whatever. And that the reward at the end would be a ride through this whole complex of tubes. the series of tubes, as it has been said. That didn't happen, but what did happen is I didn't have time, again, to design areas where you would find buttons and have bars and grating and all sorts of stuff to open up. So what I did was pieces of it that initially don't seem to be connected, and only at the end do you find they all fit together. Or so my plan was. So I started building that, bits and pieces, so like this is the first thing you see, and it's angled at 45-degree pipe is another thing I wanted to do. So this is basically the first thing I built. So the goal of not being able to see that it all connects, you have this, and if you notice that, and you see it's aimed up and it's got the arrow on it, and you're looking that way, it doesn't go anywhere. And even when you're up in that little thing, from in here you can't see that. So I thought it would be cute that, okay, well, what is that? Is that to get the gold key? But then the wood is in the way. Is that going to move or what? If anything, it would make people curious and they wouldn't be sure what's going to happen. Or maybe it would land you on a ledge and there'd be a door or some other gameplay or something and you wouldn't be able to tell there's a pipe there and a pipe over there until you get down there and see that it goes through. How well I achieved anticipation remains to be seen, although from the demos I've seen, most people don't even bother. I know nobody looks up, but I thought, you know, it's aimed up and it's got an arrow. I figured somebody would want to look up there. So much for that. Luckily, the map does not fall apart when you don't pay attention to that. Oh, and to give credit where it's due, Disney World has those, I don't know what they're called, you can Google it, but they have these fountains, these little streams of water that shoot up in the air over people's heads and into like a planter, and then they keep going, so it has this effect of they just repeatedly in this kind of undulating motion across this open veranda area. It's really cool. And I was going to do that with this, to have a bunch of these arcs through the air, so you'd fly up, get caught by one, and then launched into the next one, and it was going to be a whole thing, but of course 5 days. The best laid plans of mice and men and big fat idiots like me. So, back to my notes. Nothing yet, so let's just play the map a little bit, and I'll get back to my notes. Instead of standing around here for another 20 minutes, another 8 minutes so far. I'm looking at the audio, Jesus. Let's just kill some things. Grab some ammo. Try and kill that guy while I scratch my face. I have a hair on my eyelid. What is going on? That is the most I have talked in one of these videos for 3 years? Jesus. Oh, you really want to know something? I was almost good. The ceiling, this texture, I like this texture, but this used to be this. More of this bullshit. I originally had it there. This was only a kind of a last-minute thing, and I'm glad I did because Jesus Christ. I like my floors, though. These were always here. My next thing. Slopes on the staircases, the clip ramps. I am not a fan of that, generally speaking. Even in old games like Quake, where I kind of picture it as a sort of retro thing, as more of a Quake deathmatch convention, and I don't like seeing player clip things in Half-Life 2 maps, so I don't like using it in general, but I had a couple of reasons for doing it here. Number one, this section just over here, this main hallway. Get rid of this guy. These blue stone paver things, this seam right here used to be up a little bit just to make it a little more interesting to look at, visual interest and just for fun, but then if the stairs were normal with no clip, these stairs were actually out another 32 units, so they started here. And then if you were in the middle, as you went to try and step up, you'd get caught, which is not good for moving around a place like this. And the ramps alleviated that a little bit, so you could just kind of smoothly move across it. But then, of course, I discover coming out of here with that stuff, you get caught about this far out, 32 units or so, for some inexplicable reason, and moving the stairs back fixed that. Which then leads to, I didn't really need the ramps for this anymore, but the other reason I needed the ramps, I also lowered this, so the ramps are totally useless in this hallway, but I added this business, a staircase this long, using the maximum step height of 16, and your view is just juddering a whole way up, and that's really annoying. So I figured the ramps are not great, but they feel kind of retro to me, and it helps smooth out the view and lets me build these staircases, so fuck it, I'm doing it. So that's what I did. I'm sorry if you don't like it, but you can have your money back. With interest. Yay! I was so very proud of myself for that, but of course the fiends and everything get stuck up there once you drop down, so it's kind of a one-trick pony, but it is a pony nonetheless. This guy on skill 2, I'm still very proud of. It doesn't do it on these, because that's kind of crazy, but the fiend telefrags the dog. I almost didn't do that. I like dogs. I don't like the fact that you have to shoot them, and then to see one explode is kind of messed up, but I thought it was memorable and would be fun, so I couldn't resist. But only if you play on skill 2, like a weirdo. Most of you people are weirdos playing on hard. I don't know how people do that. Nightmare, what the fuck is with you? Playing on Nightmare, Jesus. Oh, one of the changes I would definitely make after I didn't play this quite enough. This button, the Fiend, spawns way too early and is activated. You can hear him spawn, you can hear him aggro, I think. I don't know the terms. You can hear him come after you. So most people just kind of stay up there, which sucks. I was hoping he would chase you around. Played with a whole bunch of stuff, cutting this into illusionaries and putting ramps on this so that he wouldn't get caught on these, and it works pretty well if you let him jump instead of killing him like I did, like an idiot, because I mean, I could have demonstrated it, but of course. I had this all planned out. I was so proud of myself. Oh well. Let's take a look just quickly at my notes. What else do I have to comment on? Nothing else just yet. There we go. Grab this. Have my little floor, just doors like they are in... It's one of the first episode things. I think it's the Necropolis. The one with... I don't know which one that is. I don't know the... I'm ashamed of myself. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head for which is which. Oh, here's our... If you listen, you can hear the one swamp effect is right by the secret here. We can hop on in here and take a look at this and grab an armor. You see the gently pulsing light, and if I hadn't grabbed the armor like a dope, you would have been able to see from here just the tip of it, or if you jump, you can see that there is a secret. So there's some kind of a cue, which is better than nothing. Hop on down here, float ourselves back up. Open this. And very careful with these closed to make sure you can see the key from underneath, or from the bottom of the level from this side, so you have a key over to go. Made these illusionaries instead of putting clips on them, because why the hell not? Okay, we got the key. This is a dead end. I'm not terribly happy with this. I wanted to be able to highlight the secret a little bit and maybe connect again, so you could... the more glimpses of the pipe system you get, the better. But you can get caught in here. 3 wide, which is 96. 32 times 3. Is just enough to sneak past a Hell Knight, as it turns out. But it's a little cramped for like an ogre or something. So I was hoping you wouldn't get caught. I haven't seen anybody yet, but no doubt someone will. Just looking to see if I have an example of this obnoxious textures problem at edges. I'm pretty sure I got rid of most of those. Anyway. Okay, so now we... Oh, I didn't trigger this guy. And this one. Now we got the silver key. Now here's another example. You see the end of a pipe that doesn't seem to... It goes down, but you can't really get in there. I wonder, oh, what's that about? And then you can't see anything in the dark unless you use the... Sort of use that. Because I used gate 4... so that I could get pitch blackness here while still using these nice little fill lights over here so you could see this guy more easily. And just to keep this from, if you back in, you can kind of see the edge of it there. So there's hints that maybe it's going somewhere, but you don't actually know that this connects to this necessarily. Although you do see the arrow here matches up with the arrow on the diagonal pipe outside, which hopefully kind of thematically connects them, if I sound smart when I say that. I don't know. Those are the only 2 pipes with arrows on them, so I thought maybe that'll give people an idea. Here's another arrow pointing down to the basement where the silver key is. Hop in here. Kill this guy. I finally figured out what that scraping metal sound effect was. I for the longest time, I heard that with the ogres. I didn't know what it was. And it's every time they turn. I guess dragging the chainsaw along the floor makes that scraping sound. It's been 20 years, I didn't know that. Only this time. Any more texture weirdness? We have a guy up here who is a better player than I am. Oh, I was going to show that. This is the one misaligned, rotated. All the other ones are yellow on top and bottom. This one's side by side. And you get this, which in combination with the quad gives you the quad run that's quite entertaining. Everybody blows up when you do that. This more arrow things to tell you where you're going to get the gold key. Oh, these are one of these lighting fixtures, except for that one, of course. All the other ones are one of the things I used instances for, with Quinstance, that little wrapper thing I wrote, which made it easy to set. I could do geometry and the texture, and then rotate light entities I could set up. To rotate it, though, I basically just copied the contents of the instance out of that thing and just put it here in the main map because that was easier. So they're not always perfect for everything, but they save a lot of work when you have to adjust all of these things en masse. There's like a dozen of these throughout the map, so save me a lot of time. And we hop up to this thing. We got this guy, and we have the gold key. The gold key, the quad, and the secret armor are all sitting on funk walls that get deleted, get the kill target input when the map starts. I did notice in someone's demo, I think it was, I don't know how to say this, Creator? Creathor? My apologies for mangling your name, but this was in the water. He didn't pick it up right away, but when he got up here, it had fallen down. I should have had a delay on the trigger that kills these things, the platforms, because it works most of the time, but not every time. And then we grab this, and we can do our quad run, which you want to go over this way, but that slams shut. S for stop, and arrow for that way. I should have closed these, though, because some people went down there, and that kind of screws up your timing, but you get everybody. With the super nail gun, most of the weaker enemies explode, which is fun. I had to get rid of a ton of it. I had this hallway flooded with enemies to get the nice jib showers, but then testing in Quake was giving me packet overflows, so I tried to balance between fun factor and actual retro functionality in old engines, and the map isn't going to run on 96 hardware, but it should run in Quake on some of this stuff. Then we have the final thing, which is there's only one enemy left, and we will get to him in a moment, but we're going to let this go along. See our little broken thing that you have to... That's fun. And just launch up here, and I'm going to hold a key so we can just get out of the way and land up here. Now, you can just enough hear him just enough as you go through there to get ready, and as you come out of there, he is your little bonus enemy. If you can get him on the way out, congratulations. If not, well, too bad. Oh, beautiful. All right, now, yeah, as a matter of fact, let's check our speeds. It's about 16 there. They're a little high for a Pentium 90, that's for sure. But they are... I just managed to avoid gray out in this big open area by extending this hallway back this way. This little dog leg thing, or what is it? Button hook. There you go. Coming this way. And put a hint brush just across this little point here, so that as soon as you cross here, that stuff is gone. In fact, if we do turn off our speeds and our show tries 1, we can see, you can't see anything in there, and then as soon as you get that way, and bam. So it's just enough to work in Quake without graying out, as far as I can tell. Which was a nice thing. I actually have... I'm not normally one to do this, but I have clip ramps on the sides of this because this is just such a tight space. Normally I wouldn't do that on a 16-unit thing. As 16 units or greater, I don't do it. 8 units or less, I do. But cases like this are, you know, extenuating circumstances. It's so cramped in here. Especially if there's a fiend after you. It's nice to not get caught. Oh, I made my pipes are all funk groups with underscore fong1 on them so that you get a nice smooth lighting, but they still affect visibility, which was important for those things. So I'm trying to think through, is there anything I didn't put in my notes that I haven't gone over yet? Oh, the name. Yes. Bethel. Bethel is a synonym for church or temple. I wanted some kind of a name. I was thinking, what is this place supposed to be? Is it some kind of generic Quake map kind of place, a temple or a holy place of some kind? So I went looking for synonyms, basically thesaurus.com, and I wanted something. Temple is nice, but you hear that all the time in Quake map titles, along with shrine. Those are kind of boring. Monastery is too long and too many syllables. And Bethel I've never heard before, so I figured that's a good start. And then the name, there is a map in the original Unreal called the Temple of Vandora, if I'm not mistaken. This map is not based on it in anything except the name. I took that, and there is a... I was so proud of myself some years ago for noticing this. There's an American car company, GMC, that in the, I want to say, late 80s, early 90s, had a line of full-sized vans called Vandura with a U. So I figured Temple into Bethel and Vandora into Vandura, which I then took over to Ford's Ekon-Lin series of vans and worked backward from there, reversing the process to come up with a nonsense name that just kind of sounds like some weird alien deity or historical figure or something, like it's just kind of a generic place of worship for some weird thing. I don't know. I needed something, so I made it up however I could. Oh, I set this back 32 units or so, because every time I was... This edge was back lined up with this, and I would get caught and take damage, which defeats the purpose of the 12-unit thick water in this case, to make sure. Testing in a bunch of engines showed that you'd take damage if I didn't move that back and make this water really thick. I don't know the details, but that's the way she goes. That is both of the secrets and all of the kills, so now I guess all we have to do is take our final thing. Is there anything else that I wanted to share with you? Let me just slide around here outside the map and see, did I miss anything? It does not look like it. I'm very proud of this little pool of darkness in this thing here. It's just a big box, but adding a little shadow makes it look... Oh, what is that? That doesn't look as good. Oh well. It's good enough. Oh, the quad run was originally part of a secret. I had it up in this little alcove here. This wasn't here. I added this whole thing and that thing in the last, like, 2 days of the event, because it was originally up here and it was only a secret. You would come out of this thing, air control your way past that, so you would kind of... Let's try this here. Just kind of stay out of here and end up here. Then you'd get behind this thing. You would find the super nail gun. Then you could slope jump up here and hop around to that. And I got rid of that because the quad run, it was too much fun to blast through all those enemies and watch them explode and not let everybody go through it. So I needed a way. It solved a bunch of problems at the same time to do it this way, so that you always get that. The super nail gun is right before the entrance to that, so you can grab it down here. Switch. Grab it here, if you grab it. If you don't grab it, it's still perfectly playable and reasonably entertaining, but it's much more fun if you do. Grab your quad, get sent that way. This thing opens up again. That's another change I would make. This opens up once you get to this intersection, just because once you've made it through all the enemies, you don't need this to be blocked. I would try and make this silent when it opens, though, because once you do this and you hear it, people might get distracted and come this way. I haven't seen anybody do that. The enemies seem to be a stronger attraction, but just in case, I'd rather have done that. That is all of my notes that I can see. I'm just looking off screen. I can't switch away from the game's window otherwise. Fraps goes crazy. Yep, that's about it. Yeah. Alright. I think that about covers it. Now it's just time to take a ride. I had thought I did a decent job with the textures I chose, considering they're so ugly, but I guess not. That's harsh, but hey, that's the way it goes. Oh, that's... this video's gonna drag on. It's almost a half hour already. To get this to work, let me just... I've got a clip. You have the source files accessible, but there's a clip ramp at the bottom of this, just around maybe here. Let's see if we can see it. To make that jump, it's maybe 300 trigger push speed, and then watch as I get slammed up to the ceiling, so that as I drop, I'll make it across the gap. Kind of ham-fisted, but it makes sure that everybody gets across, or as far as I've seen so far. And the only other thing is, just a quick piece of advice for the trigger push thing for wind tunnels. Don't have this, like the one that the trigger that's here. Is there a show triggers? There's not. Okay, that's source or something. If that trigger is level with the face of this, you can hit it here and get stuck against that thing. So I have it up 16 units so that you can still jump into it. And it's the same for each of these turns, where if the one, like this one, to go that way is flat level with the wall here, then if you're against the wall as you touch it, side of your bounding box being even with the side of that counts as touching it, which means you could get pulled that way while you're still hooked on this wall, and you just kind of get stuck in place, ending up being pulled like here, and that doesn't work. So you have to pull them back a little bit, and then there's one that I'm in now, and then there's a little one at the end. It's sort of the same way they set them up in E3M5. And of course you can check my JMF or map file to see exactly what I'm talking about. This, to get the arc, the trigger is not actually, it's a bunch of triggers that push you straight up against the ceiling. And the last one gives you, I think it's 125, just enough to launch over here, and then it catches you, throws you into this one, up into this, and then into the exit. And that, my friends, is all she wrote, I believe. One last look at my notes to make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover. And it looks like that is in fact it. Thank you for tolerating that, and for putting up with me breathlessly speaking for half an hour. My apologies for the time. Alright, I've covered everything I think I can cover. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment, or send me an email, or Twitter, or wherever. I'm fine with anything. Alright. That will do it. Excellent jam. Yeah. I will see you next time, hopefully. Hopefully it's not another year before I do another YouTube video, so... see you around, folks.